Can the Buffalo Bills get into the playoffs in 2020? We're going to talk about that and last night's game against the Red Wings right after this.
Remember to subscribe and hit the bell notification.
Good morning, everyone. This is Karl F. Rose recording from Bedford, Pennsylvania on Friday, February 7th, 2020. And last night I watched just the third period of the game between the Buffalo Sabres and the Detroit Red Wings. But before we get into the specifics of the game, let's talk about where they are right now. I think overall, personally, in the future, the future looks good for the Buffalo Sabres with Eichel and Rodriguez and a few other people. I'll go into where they need to what they need to do after I talk about the game. But I think the future looks good for them. But whether they make it to the playoffs or not, that's to be seen. I mean, they're still in it. They can still do it. So now let's get into the game last night. I figured since they were playing the league's most pathetic team, the Detroit Red Wings, who are just utterly incapable of doing anything, last night's game was just a complete embarrassment for the Sabres. I was watching other things, and I was figuring that by the time I got onto the game, that the Sabres would at least have about a 6-0 lead or something. So I get on the game at the beginning of the third period, and it's 2-0 Detroit. How the Sabres can, and this is in Buffalo too, how they can let the Red Wings, the most inept team in the league, get up to them or get a jump up on them is beyond me. I didn't see the first two periods, so I don't know how pathetically bad they were playing, but they had to be playing bad. The third period that I saw was actually quite good. I started, it was 2-0. I was going to switch it off, and I thought, no, I'll watch the third period. They came back, they tied it. They got 2 goals in like a minute and something, a quite quick period of time. Then towards the end, then Detroit, I believe they were on a power play. They got a go-ahead goal to go 3-2. Then with about 46 seconds left, Buffalo tied it up to go into overtime. So it was actually a really good period to watch. But then I flipped it off, hoping, figuring, well, the Sabres should be able to do this in overtime. So I was watching something else, and I went and checked the score. And then I saw the final score. Detroit won the game in a shootout. See, this is the kind of thing that the Sabres cannot have happen. That they need to get 2 points. Granted, they did get a 1 point for the overtime loss. That's just not good enough. It's not cutting it. Now let's get into their area. It's their defensive. Their defensive line is just not doing it. The other team, their opponents, are just spending too much time on their end of the rink, and naturally the goalie is going to give up a lot of goals. If you're constantly playing on your heels and you're on your end of the rink, there's only so much that the goalie can do. And I didn't know it until later in the game that I was watching, that the last night's goalie, this was his first NHL game, so you really got to give hats off to him. He did hold the Red Wings for quite a while, but they lost in overtime. But so if this is their goalie of the future, that's pretty good. I don't think their problem is with their goaltending. Their problem is with their defensive line. So that's something they're going to probably have to address in the offseason. I mean, if they cannot go on to a string of getting wins and getting 2 points, I'm talking about a 5 or 6 game win streak. That's really what they need to do, and that should help them inch up in their chances to get in a playoff. But down the road, I think in the future with Jack Eichel and Rodriguez and a number of other people, I think the future looks good for the Sabres, and they're going to be a team to be dealt with. They started the year off great. They were right up top, and then they just for whatever reason they've slipped down in the standings, and that's where they've been ever since. And then they're above Ottawa and Detroit, but everybody's above Detroit. They just need to stick. Their defense just needs to be better. Their defensive line, all lines, all 3 or 4 lines, defensive lines. So they just cannot spend so much time in their own end, because if they continue this trend, they won't make it to the playoffs, especially if they can't beat the Red Wings. I mean, the Red Wings are just a horrible organization. There's nothing good about the Red Wings, and yet they can't beat them. So anyway, I just wanted to get this out. I do think there's hope for the Sabres. Maybe not this year, but the future looks bright for them. But they need to pick up some things. Maybe in the off season, maybe they can get some better defensive players, free agency or that sort of thing. I think the trade deadline has already come and passed, and so there's not a whole lot they can do now. They just got to play better. They don't put together a string of wins and getting 2 points. They're not going to get it. And last night, even though the third period was good, it's just not good enough, and they just need to get better. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please go and hit the subscribe button, the bell notification. Also, I have sports playlist in the description. Plus, I have cards here and there, so be sure to click on those cards there, and go to the next video, and we will talk to you next time.